Hello, everyone. Hi, Electric Hamstar. Hello. Hello, Adam. How are you? Hello. Looks like we have Rubel, Yusuf. Some really great people coming around. Oh, someone says my camera angle. I guess I should. I don't know how to fix that, unfortunately. And Adam asks, "How's the chess going?" Very well. I'm still not very good at chess, Adam. Since the last time we played, couple weeks ago, but I'm getting better. Yes, I do know that. Okay. Looks like some people. Oh yes, and I do have kind of a festive tree, but it's a perennial tree. Anyway, so it's really great to have you all here for our workshop today. I'm really excited to talk to you all about GitHub a little bit and answer any questions that you might have with uploading your project. So let me check this out here. So first I wanted to talk about what GitHub is in general. So let me share my screen a little bit with you and show you. Okay. Hopefully you can see my screen now. Can you see GitHub there? Oh, got to add it to the stream. There it is. Got it. Okay, so here's my GitHub account. And actually, if you don't have a GitHub account already, I encourage you to go to github.com. So someone asks, what do we have to do? So I just put a link in the chat to github.com. And if you are waiting, while you're waiting, why not try and make your own account on GitHub? So GitHub is kind of like Google Drive, if you've ever used Google Drive. Google Drive is a way of sharing files with your neighbors, with your online neighbors. And GitHub is a way of sharing code with your online neighbors. The task, a couple of people are asking, what's the task? You know, what do we have to follow along? The task is to upload your project to GitHub. And I'll actually give a couple of other folks some opportunities to do some other fun things with our GitHub workshop. Someone wants a dark theme. So yeah, you can do this cute little thing where you make GitHub dark theme. You can upload a project from your GitHub, from your local Hackday build. So maybe you did local Hackday build, you have a project to share. I'm also going to have my own project that I've made. It's a melon related project. So if you want to upload and change my melon based project, that would be okay too. So like I said, GitHub is kind of like Google Drive in the sense that you can share anything with anyone on the internet. And GitHub runs on a version control system called Git. So Git is kind of a way of keeping track of changes to a project over time. And GitHub is just a nice interface for using Git and some nice features. This person says, yeah, that's exactly right. This is something we could do. I wanted to talk a little bit about why this is also something that's groundbreaking and was groundbreaking to the tech community when GitHub kind of started, is because version control allows people to firstly share with one another in an easily centralized way and receive credit for what they do. So on an open source project, you can see who's actually doing the work. So that's kind of why this technology is groundbreaking. Oh, someone else says you can track changes as well. Yeah, that's a other really useful thing. And so say something broke in my most recent upload of a project. Well, I can use version control to identify the point at which the project started to break, and then I can restore a previous version. So that's a really good innovation as well. Anybody else think of some innovative, maybe innovative things that GitHub has brought along or version control has brought along? I'm happy to take any questions as well that people have. Yeah, someone says branches. Yeah, I mean, some of these terms are things that people won't know about. Maybe not everybody knows about right now, but we're actually going to talk about all of them during this workshop. Someone says a place to show your work. That's another really good thing. So you can see on my GitHub, I have some projects here that I've made use of, some projects that I've created myself, and it kind of serves as a showcase to the world. And that's what we're all about with Local Hack Day Share, is showing everyone just what we're capable of doing. Let's see. Someone asked, what will we do today? So again, today we're talking about GitHub. We're going to be exploring GitHub interface. We're going to do the task for today, which is to upload a project. And if you don't have a project readily available, I have my own project that I'll be uploading. Okay, so some really great comments. If anyone's curious, just check the comment section for a little more information about GitHub. But we're going to move on and actually look at some real world GitHub projects. So let's look at the first project that I want to show you, which is a really big project. Okay. Actually, I should probably do this. Okay. Does anybody know what React is? Someone asked to be walked through GitHub Pages. Yes, I'm actually including that in today. So we will get to walk through GitHub Pages. Okay, some people say a JavaScript framework. It's some kind of web framework. That's exactly right. React is a really popular library of JavaScript, and it allows people to make interactive content on the web. Now, that's a really general explanation, but it's been found to be very useful and popular for developers. So this is actually an open source project, meaning that anyone on the internet can look at the entire code and make a proposal for a change. And it's maintained by the company Facebook. And so let's look at this project in detail. Someone asks if I can zoom in a little bit. I'm happy to zoom in, maybe make it a little bigger. Hopefully that's big enough for you. Let's look at a few important things here. So if we look at the top right-hand corner, you can see there's watch, star, and fork. People who are watching the project are receiving notifications about when it's changing. So if anything changes in the React code, they'll get a notification. It seems like 166,000 people have starred this project. I'll star it myself. One more person. Star is kind of like a like and shows the legitimacy of the project. And fork is a way to copy the code into your own GitHub. So it's kind of like making a copy, a local copy that you can change around to your own liking. There's also a bar right here. In the leftmost side, it says code. Code tab is just the actual folders and files that make up React. So you can see there's a folder for packages, scripts, some standalone JavaScript file. And there's also in the code section a README file. README is a really useful file in GitHub. You want to put a README on most of your projects, if not all your projects, because at the bottom of GitHub, it tells you a little bit about the project. So you can include a lot of language that explains what your project is all about to anyone who's curious in the README file. Okay. Then there's one more file that I wanted to show you. I'm sorry that the scrolling was just very bad there, but it's this license file. So a license file is a very good idea for most GitHub projects This is telling the world what kind of rights you reserve on your project in terms of copying, making a copy, selling the copies, making changes, things like that. So we'll go over all of this stuff in just a little while. In the right-hand margin of GitHub, it tells you a little bit about the project. You can, again, see the README and the license. And there's some information about the releases. So you can see that there have been 138 releases of this project. And what does that actually mean? Well, what that means is that there have been many, many pull requests, right? And many, many changes to the project, but these changes get packaged together into important releases. So you can see that there's a lot of commits on this project, 14,000, but there's not that many tags, which are the big version changes, just 137. Does anybody have any questions about this so far? Let's see what people say. Someone says, by forking a code, we get a local copy. That's exactly right. It's a local copy. And as one user points out, it's a separate one to edit. So yeah, you can make a change. And someone else says, do you reckon putting all my code for local hack day in one repo is a good idea? I would probably say no, unless you only have a small project to put up. A repo should usually just be one idea. You know, think of a repo like a Google document. You want to put one idea in one folder, basically. Okay, someone says, can we please explain branches? That's kind of the next thing that I'm going to talk about. Oh my goodness, Jack. Well, yep, that's one way to do it. You certainly can put all of your code in the same repo if you prefer. Okay, so some people are asking, can you explain branches? What are commits? What are these things? Let's talk about branches for a little while. So you can see in this tab that I dropped down in, these branches are all the different versions that we have. See, so these are major versions. So you can see 17.00, 17.01. If we look at the pull requests, on the other hand, these are people asking to make a small change to the project. So let's look at one example here. Yeah. So we just want to say that to update this markdown file. And this person's saying, explaining why they think the change is needed. And some other people might come and try and test out the change and see if it will be a valid change. But after a lot of these minor changes happen through a pull request, they can be added to a version. Okay, and that's what will happen with the branches. Does that make sense to anyone? Yeah, exactly. So I hope that kind of explains a little bit about what the difference between forking and branches is. Whereas a branch is, you know, we're kind of agreeing as a community to make a certain change to the master, you know, or not to the master, but to some sort of public version. Whereas with fork, you're actually making your own local copy. It's kind of separate from the project. Right, exactly. Branching is different versions, but it's not the same as fork, which would just be a local copy. Like you can see there's only 100 or 200 branches, but there's actually 33,000 forks. So they're two kind of different things, if that makes sense. Let's see if there's any other questions here. Someone wants to know, Krishna wants to know, what is the projects tab alongside the repository tab? So this is kind of a new feature in GitHub, and feel free to try it out yourself if you're interested in organizing your projects on GitHub. But you can organize your issues with a Kanban board. Does anybody know what Kanban boards are? Actually, you can do a lot more than that, but there's plenty of different ways you can actually like sort, organize, do workflows with multiple repos in one project. So Kanban's actually just one of the things that you can do with the projects. It's kind of like if you've ever used Trello, that's Kanban. Somebody says agile methodology. Exactly. I think this is kind of a way to learn about agile. Yeah, somebody says we have not heard of Kanban boards. I'm happy to, let's just do a quick detour here. So Kanban board is like this. Like you have certain workflow of changes, you know, some in progress change, and it goes through the peer review and then to done. It's just a way of managing your project. I appreciate the positive enthusiasm, Adam. I think it seems like we've covered a lot so far about this big project. Let me put in a few more minor points. So in a big project like this, there's often a wiki. So we can click on wiki and see, actually their wiki is on a different page, but often there will be a wiki here for a really big project that'll tell you something about what's going on in the project, how to use it. And there's also an Insights tab, which is a little bit hidden in this zoom in. But if we click on this, this is also something that's fairly new. And you can see a lot of cool insights about exactly how active the repo is, what kind of people are working on the project. And this is what I was talking about with the groundbreaking nature of GitHub is, you know, we can give a lot of credit to ACD Light, people like this, who are really making lots of commits to this project. And all of these different, you know, pull requests are being added, and we're publishing a version to kind of encapsulate all of those pull requests, if that makes any sense. Okay. Yeah, someone says managing our project in iterations. That's a really nice explanation of GitHub and what exactly we're doing with a version control. All right. So that's what I have for you on this big projects. Anybody have any further questions? Okay, seems like we're good on questions for now. Let me show you some of my other favorite projects. So there's something called the Littlest Jupyter Hub, which is a project that allows you to host your own Jupyter notebook. Many of you might know what a Jupyter notebook is. It's just a really nice way of doing scientific programming. You can host your own hub of Jupyter notebooks for a class or for your friends. And this is a tiny little project, you know, I'd say medium-sized project, has 647 stars instead of 160,000 that, you know, React had. But it's very useful. And so this is an example of a medium-sized project. Maybe you and your friends and, you know, your teammates on local hack day could create a project that's kind of this size. So it's really similar to React, but a little bit different. Is there a point? It seems like someone else knows what this is referring to, so I'll let them take care of that, but I'm really not sure. I know if you can maybe explain that question a little bit better. But yeah, so this is one example of a kind of medium-sized project that you and your friends could do. Oh, someone says, what to upload hello world. So this is exactly what we're going to work on in the second half of this workshop, which is about an hour long. We're gonna work on some sort of hello world project, and it's melon related. Okay. Someone asks, what's actions? So let's click on actions. I think actions is something that I'm not really too familiar with, to be honest with you. I haven't really used it, but I think it's something that's fairly new. If someone in the comments knows a little bit about actions, feel free to elaborate. But it seems to be another sort of workflow style feature where you can automate certain parts of software development. I love it. I love it. Maybe I should be Bob Ross of the GitHub tutorial world, you know. Okay, so Jack has some nice explanations here. Automations that run when you do things to your code, deployments, code checks, image compression, that kind of thing. So that's really cool. Okay, someone wants to explain branches again, like master branch and all. Yeah, so this is the main branch here, right? And so this is the default one that you see, the version that I guess we could say everybody is currently operating on. However, you can have many different versions of the same project. So it seems like this Ubuntu 18.04 might be a version that works best on Linux computers, like Ubuntu Computer. So if we click on that, we can see that it's just another version of this project. And once there's a lot of pull requests that come into the project, lots of minor changes, they get grouped into a version, and we can, immortalize a version as a branch. So that's kind of what's happening here. And someone else, and I guess, so that's the difference between, for example, master and some other type of branch. Is master is kind of the default, what everyone is assumed to be working off of most of the time. If that makes sense. Let's see if any other questions. A couple of interesting questions. So here's a good one. Tips for contributing to more open source projects as a beginner to open source. So we have talked about 2 open source projects. And now we've talked about React and we've talked about the littlest Jupyter Hub. There are a lot of people in the Major League Hacking community who are open source developers, especially in our fellowship program. So there's a fellowship at Major League Hacking. Let me show quickly. So here it is. You can see that we have lots of people working on this project. So you can contact us about this. You can join the fellowship, you can apply for fellowship and things like this. That would be a really great way to start out as an open source explorer. And someone else asks the link of the project we are contributing. So I'll get to that very soon. I just want to make sure everybody understands the basics of GitHub. I'm not even going to comment about this one, Jack. And some other people in the comments have some great resources as well. Personally, I do not contribute to open source projects with much frequency, so I would be probably a bad person to ask, but lots of really good resources in the community to get started with open source. All right, so now that you've seen a medium-sized project, which is the littlest Jupyter Hub, let me show you a local, tiny project. So I'll show you one of my projects. Oh yeah, here's a project that I worked on. So GitHub you can totally use without the necessarily collaborating with others, right? You can use GitHub to showcase your work, to kind of immortalize it on the web and let anyone download it. This particular project I made as part of a tutorial on mlh.io. We have a blog where we put lots of short form tutorials on how to do different things. You can see that my project has some code, a README file, a folder. So there's a lot of really useful ways you can use GitHub. It doesn't always have to be as a big contributor to React, a project like React. It doesn't have to even be to a medium-sized project like the littlest Jupyter Hub. You can really use GitHub for many different applications. All right, so now kind of what you've all been waiting for, we're going to actually practice. We're going to practice uploading a project. That's really what the point of this tutorial is to have you get started uploading your project. Does anybody have any questions before we go on to that point? Have you had any trouble, for example, registering for the GitHub account, or maybe you've had some questions that haven't really answered yet? Someone asks, using GitHub GUI versus Git commands. Excuse me. Yeah, so there are two ways to use GitHub. Well, two ways that I am very familiar with. I think there are probably a few more, but GitHub GUI, and you can use Git commands directly. So today we're going to be using GitHub GUI. But yeah, there's GitHub Desktop, as someone says in the comments. But Git commands is another way to use GitHub through your terminal. And we're not going to cover that today because it's not necessary to complete the challenge. But there's a lot of really good resources on GitHub's website to learn about Git using the Git command line interface, CLI. Someone says, is a change made to the master branch permanent? I suppose it's a good question. I mean, it's not permanent. It's not permanent in the sense that there's still version control. So you can still look at another version and restore from a previous version. But in a sense, it's the most permanent that it ever gets, right? Like it's a very official, it's the most official way of adding a change. So usually on a big project like React, there are many, many, many tests that are done to, especially for core components, when you change a core component, to ensure that the pull request and to the master branch is not going to have some adverse effect, because it'll change the sort of official default code. So it's, in that sense, it's very, it's probably the most permanent form of modification. It's not like a fork where you can just fork the project and delete everything if you wanted to. Right, yeah, main. I think a much better language, really, to use main. Someone says, why do we need to fork the project? So to fork, it will allow you to run the code yourself, make any edits without asking for permission. Okay. Is master branch origin branch? That's a good question. I think so, but someone in the comments maybe correct me on that one. I know origin is the terminology they use a lot, especially with GitHub Desktop. You'll like pull from the origin. But I think it's just generally where you're getting your code from is the origin branch. I don't think it has to be the master branch. Okay, folks, we got some very good questions here. Main versus master. Yeah, exactly. I agree with Jack. That's definitely my understanding as well. All right. For now, I'm just going to start with our practice so that we can actually get some practice. But we have some very good people in the comments to help you out with any questions you might have lingering. So now that you've created a GitHub account, we're going to create a new repository. And so let's go. I'm going to go to my profile, and you can do this too with your own profile. So you click my profile, and once you're on this page, you can click the plus button in the top right corner of your browser. And that's going to bring you to a drop-down menu where you can do a number of different things. What we're going to do today is probably the most basic of these, which is add a new repository. So click New Repository. Okay, so when you get to this stage, You can also import a repository that you might have sitting on your desktop, but we won't be doing that today. You can also use a template. There might be some projects in your GitHub account that are kind of have a few different preset things, but we won't be doing that today either. So the next part is to create a repository name. And for this time, I'm going to choose the name Melon Squad. Okay, so it's melon-squad. It'll also tell you some fancy nonsensical names if you want to choose one of those. But I like the Melon Squad best for now. Okay, and we need to have a description as well. So I'm going to just write a tribute to the Melon Squad, my description. Okay. Someone says, what do we have to keep the name? So it's very good to actually make a name that you're going to stay consistent with, because then anyone who wants to find your project, you know, it's easy for them to see. But I think you can rename your repository if you choose. You certainly can delete your repository, create a new one. So there's lots of different options after doing this. So don't feel too bad about picking something permanent. And someone says we can choose whatever name we want, right? That's definitely true, as long as it's not a repository name that you've already chosen in the past. Okay. So the next stage here is we have to choose public or private repository. And for today, I'm going to choose a public one so that you all can go and check out this project. But you're welcome to make your repositories private, especially if you don't want others on the internet to see your code. Maybe you have some data from a trial that you did in your scientific experiment and it has some private information. You want to make sure it's private so that no one can access. And there's also an opportunity to initialize the repository with different files. So to initialize, this means we're starting up the repository, just kind of building it for the first time. And I'm going to actually select two options here. I'm going to have the repository add a README file just right off the bat, because it's good practice to have a README file in your projects. And then I'm also going to check the box for choose a license. And there are many different licenses you can choose from. Let me actually bring you to choosealicense.com, which is a really good place to find out a lot about the different licenses that are available. For this project, I want everyone to be able to see my Melon Squad tribute website, so I want it to be permissive, and I don't care if anyone makes a change or even distributes a closed source version of this and sells it. You know, I don't really mind. So I'm going to use the MIT license for mine. And finally, we create the repository. So you click the green button there to do that. I don't know why that was so hard for me to say. Okay, someone says we need to do this now, right? Yeah, you could start doing this now. Just create your own repository. It does not need to be called Melon Squad, certainly. And I see I already have a follower on this repository. Someone says MIT license pretty common. I definitely agree with that. Yeah, that's true. And community culture. Yeah. So as far as this person getting an error while pulling, don't worry about pulling. We'll work on pulling from, you could even try to do a pull request on my project here. We'll get to that in a few moments. Okay, now you might notice that this project here that I've created doesn't have any unique files. So I have a website that I'm going to upload to this project. And it's only one file. So I'm just going to click Upload Files. Oops. And I'm going to drag the file into the repository. So, I'm actually just going to choose File. So it's an index.html file. You should feel free to upload your files in this manner. If you have a more complicated project, you might want to upload folders. You can also use GitHub Desktop, which I won't cover today, but it's another way of uploading projects. It's a little more complicated, but it can be a lot more useful if you have a really big project that you want to upload. But for today, I'm just going to keep it basic so that all of you, everyone can kind of complete the challenge. So what I'm about to do is commit some changes directly to the main branch. So this, in a sense, is going to change that main branch we were talking about. And it's called add files via upload. So I'm going to keep that name for this commit. And I'm not really going to do an extended description, but you can feel free to document your commits as much as you'd like. But really what's happening right now is I'm committing a change to the main branch of this project. And that change is to upload this index.html file. Okay, and you'll want to do something very similar for your project. So let me click commit changes now. And you can see that now there are index.html, and you can see that add files via upload is the commit that this came from. So you can see in the commit history here that the initial commit, when we initialized the project, had a README, a license, and that was done 3 minutes ago. And then just now we've added a new file. So if I found that this file was actually a bug, right, and there was a big problem, so that would actually be an issue I could easily resolve by just reverting back to the initial commit. Some other folks say upload using terminal. Yes, there's another way you can upload. So there's lots of ways to upload. And someone says, can we create a new branch for this commit and start a pull request and then commit the new branch to the main? Absolutely, we could absolutely do something like that. I guess now I've already kind of done it, but let me just show you what it would look like. So if I just upload another file, I don't know if I have any good files to upload. If I just said to upload again, I could create a new branch and it would be CropperS patch 1. So this might be a good thing to try. You could click propose changes, and then this would actually show up in the pull request tab. It would be one of those things that we could request to pull to the main branch. Yeah. Someone says, what about Git Ignore? Yeah, so Git Ignore is just a way to actually tell the repository to ignore certain files. So maybe you don't want to actually reproduce everything when you do a fork, for example. And Git Ignore is just kind of a metadata file that will tell about that sort of behavior. But we're going to ignore Git Ignore for now. Can you add our old project? Absolutely. Yeah. What to share in the today form for this session? That's a good question. I'm not really sure what you're referring to, but for today, the goal of this is to upload a project to GitHub. So as long as you've done that, you've satisfied the requirement for this one. Okay. So does anyone have any questions about what we've done so far? We've kind of done a lot, really. One thing I'm going to do is edit the README a little bit. So we can click edit here, and we can add a new section. So we could say, website features, and we could put something like melons and festivity for local hack day, share. So those are some features maybe in the website. And it's update README. We can commit the changes. And you can see now there's some extra portions of our README. Okay. Okay, it seems like someone else answered this question. I'm going to take them at their word. I imagine they would know better than I do. I actually didn't know this, but so there are some certain file size limits for uploading. Good to know. Okay, everyone. What I'm going to do now is someone actually asked if we could try GitHub Pages. So I'll try that for now. This is actually going to show you how to kind of post your project as a website. You can host it off of GitHub. So let me show GitHub Pages actually. So it's a feature that GitHub has where we can actually host our website, host our project online. In a sense, anyone can access this website. So it's really useful. And we're going to do that today with the Melon Squad tribute website. So to accomplish this, we want to go to settings page. So there's this big toolbar in the top, and there's an option called settings. And when we click on this, we can see that there's a lot of settings here. We can add a wiki. We can have issues, different things like this. And GitHub Pages is a section all in and of itself. So for GitHub Pages to work, you do need to have some kind of index file that it's going to discover immediately. So in my case, it's index.html. That's going to be kind of the front page of my project. So you'll want to name your front page in a similar way, index.html or sometimes index.php. Anything index will be kind of the initial portion of the project. And to enable this, we want to go to the sources section and select the main branch, because that will bring us to the project itself. And when I click save here, it saves all of my GitHub Pages information. And you can see that there's actually an opportunity now to go to the website where it's published, and it'll give you a link right here. So when I click this link, oh, I guess it doesn't do it yet. Maybe it needs some time. I'll also click enforce HTTPS because I like HTTPS. See if there's any questions so far. Okay, so someone knows what you need to do. So you need to take a screenshot, then link and upload it in the challenges. Yeah, so you can do exactly what we've been doing here. Follow the same steps. Let's try again. Okay, so it looks like now our great website has populated. So you can see now that we have our Melon Squad tribute website. Now, if any of you want to make a change to this project, let me show you how you might do that. So suppose I want to make a change to Melon Squad project. So I can click on index.html, and you can see the code here. You can do this too if you fork the project by clicking the fork button. Seems like 2 of you already have. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit this file, and I'm going to change the color of the Melon Squad text. So right now the color of the Melon Squad text is white. And as you could all see, it was a very nice white Melon Squad. But I'm going to change to green, okay? Because I like the color green for melons. Now you can make any change you want on your version of this. You could change the background color. You could change the font family to some other font. But that's all I'm going to do for now. And so I'm going to commit these changes directly to the main branch. But of course, you could start your own pull request if you want to try and change the Melon Squad website. So I'll click Commit Changes. And now the changes have been committed to the main branch. Okay. Adam, I'm glad you approve of my of my website there. I'm very glad. Okay, so let's see if we've made the change. So I'm going to go back to this website, and sure enough, our website has changed and the text is now green. So this is another way of checking this out, making a change in real time. And of course, all of you can go to this website and check it out for yourself. Does anyone have any questions so far? Can I add the link of my old project, which I created some days ago? Yeah, absolutely. You can. So you mean in the sense that to complete the challenge for this project? I think if it's a project that pertains to local hack day, you could do that. But the intention is so that you're uploading a project in relation to local hack day. So that's what I would say to that question. So do we have to upload this to anywhere? So I think someone already answered this question. To tell you the truth, I don't really know too much about the process. I'll have to get familiar with that when for my next workshop, because I didn't really think to learn about it. But this person says we have to take a screenshot, link, and upload it in the challenges. So I think there's everybody has their own account where they can upload to the challenges. I'll have to do that myself. Someone says, can you repeat it again? Sure, I'll repeat the process again. Let me just quickly answer one question, which is how do I fork your repo? So let me show you that, how to do that. So I'll put my repo, the link to that, in the chat. So, Yusuf or anyone who has a question about this, I just sent over a link to this in the chat. And you would want to click there to get to my repo. And then in the top right-hand corner, there's a button that says fork. And so you can fork your own copy of this project onto your website, onto your GitHub, sorry. It seems like 7 people already have. So you can see all these people have made a copy. And feel free, anyone, by the way, to make a pull request. Looks like one person made a pull request. Adam made this one. Okay, he wants to add a link. So let's go through this. Actually, this is a pretty good exercise. So any of you who have forked the project, you can make a pull request. So Adam has done so by, this is his change, and the idea is to add a link. So it seems like he would like to add a link. There's there's one conflicting file, it seems. So let me just resolve the conflict. Looks like he put his link in just above where I've got my Melon Squad situation here. So I could just kind of easily, I think it'll look just fine this way. I can resolve that. And now that we have this nice change to the website, we can commit the merge. And what's going to happen is this patch, this pull request that Adam has initiated, will be, in a sense, incorporated into my main branch. And so now the official Melon Squad tribute website will have a web link to this new website here. So let's click commit merge. right, looks like that conflict was resolved. We were able to include Adam's contribution to the branch, and we can merge the pull request. And so I'll just do that right now. And we have a little purple badge that tells us that it's been merged. So now when we look at the index.html file, it lists 2 contributors. And there's an additional code step here where we actually have a link. So maybe if I refresh the website, this nice link here links to the Melon Squad website. So there you have it. Oh, yeah, Adam, I guess it is true. I will have 2 titles. I probably should have resolved that in a different way, but oh well. Now there's 2 titles, I guess. Okay. Mr. Rice Flame 1 had a very helpful link there. So for anyone who's trying to complete this challenge, thank you for sharing that link. Really, really appreciate it. And so I had promised to repeat this. So in these last few minutes, Adam wants to know if it works. Let's see. I think he just secretly wants me to go to this website. Actually, perhaps it doesn't work. Maybe there's some kind of server timeout or something. Anyway, oh well. It's got all kinds of CSS for this link. How funny. Okay, so I'm going to do this one more time. Yeah, he did typo the URL, didn't he? That's pretty funny. How about you submit another pull request, Adam? And I'll take care of it after the workshop. So we have some more questions coming in, but I did want to repeat this just for anyone who did get disconnected or was not sure how to do this part of the project. I'm going to repeat uploading and creating a repository. So the first thing you want to do is go to your GitHub page, and you can do that by just basically clicking on github.com. And in the right-hand corner of the top right, there's going to be a plus button. So you want to click this button, click the new repository option. And when you do that, you're going to have the opportunity to create a new repository. So the first thing you'll want to do is name the repository. So I'll just name it Melon Squad Copy so that we know that it's the copy version of this. You can add a description if you like. You can make the repository public to anyone on the internet or private to just you and whoever you invite to your repository. And you can initialize it with a README or a license. README is just a way of making a long description of what the project's about. And a license will allow you to actually choose a license that will indicate to users what is allowed in terms of can they copy the project and use it for their own purposes? Can they sell your code? And I chose the MIT license, which is a very common license for my project. And once you create the repository, you have the opportunity to upload. So there's a lot of really helpful guidance from GitHub on how to do this. There's a way you can download a desktop tool for GitHub, especially useful if you have a large project. There's a way to do this through command line, where you can actually use Git, which is that versioning control stuff I was talking about earlier. And that's for more of an advanced user. But for today, all we did was upload an existing file on github.com. So you just click that button, click choose your files, and I just went and committed this change. And that kind of creates it. Okay, so hopefully that answers your question for how to do this. We have some people with some very creative emojis in the chat. I love it. Not really sure how to interpret them. It's very interesting at the very least. No problem. Someone asks, when you accept a pull request and merge it to the main, what happens to the rest of the pull requests? Aren't they incompatible now? That's a really good question. And it goes to what I was doing before with Adam's pull request. And that's, I was reconciling the two versions. So there's always going to be a difference between what is published on the main version and the changes that a user is suggesting. And so when a pull request is made, it will have certain areas where there's a delete, they delete a line or insert a line. And ultimately the decision on what to do in those circumstances, it comes down to whoever's managing the project. So I was able to, not very successfully, I might add, reconcile Adam's pull request with my main version. So I hope that answers your question. They're not incompatible. They just need to be reconciled by the project owner. How can I find the link to the website I created with GitHub Pages? That's a good question. So before that, there's one other question. After merging a pull request, how do the people who have forked before the commit get the latest version? So they can fork the project again. There might be some other way to do it. I don't really think that anything changes with regard to, when there's a pull request. I don't think it updates your forked version. I think it stays, the way it used to be. And the question was, how do I get a link to the website? So let's do that. So I'll show you actually. So I'm going to go into this first project and click on settings and scroll down to the section which says GitHub Pages. And if you've successfully done this, you first need to click the save button, right? That's important to do because it'll actually save your changes and publish a GitHub page. Once you click save, it will give you this notification and it'll tell you the website. Usually the website will just be your name, like Cropper S, in my case, .github.io/the repo. But I have this domain connected to my website, to my GitHub, so it publishes there. And when you click on this, it should bring you to the website. And people are asking about, I forgot to add a license. Can I add it later? Yeah, you can add files later. It's just kind of convenient to add them at the initialization phase. I mean, I guess, yeah, initialization. I don't know. I forgot to. Oh, that's the same one. There was another question. How do you restore an old version? So the beauty of GitHub is all the old versions are, in a sense, they are already there. You don't need to restore anything. So if we look React, Facebook, we can look at any of these previous versions of React. I think there's a version here, version 15. And you can just see the previous version here. So there's no need to necessarily restore anything. It's just immortalized as a branch or as a pull request. Or I'm sorry, or as a commit, rather. Someone says, for someone new to CS, how would you explain the importance of GitHub to them? So that's what I kind of tried to do at the beginning of the workshop with my explanation of GitHub, kind of like Google Drive. Because a lot of people have used Google Drive, even if they're not computer science savvy. And Google Drive is really similar to GitHub in the sense that you can collaborate with others. You can host a file publicly, showcase your work, that kind of thing. So that's how I would explain it. That's how I try to do it, like Google Drive. And somebody says, can we purchase a domain and then use that instead of the GitHub DNS? Instead of the GitHub DNS. Yeah, you should be able to do that. And there's actually a tutorial on how to do that on the GitHub Pages website. So if we go here, let's see, custom URLs. This is what you want. So I'll post the link in the chat. But there's a very good way to, it's fairly straightforward for most domain providers to do this. No problem. Yeah, someone says, how do you add a license later? So you can just upload the file, and there's that choose a license tool, which will tell you about, what are the different licenses. So use choosealicense.com. Okay. Let me see if there's any. Oh, looks like we have some more pull requests. Some people are adding some pull requests. So I'm going to put some new pull requests in. So we have some change here. Hopefully these are appropriate changes. Let's see. What is this one here? Welcome to Local Hack Day. Oh, this looks like a very nice change. Okay, of course this will get rid of the link, but the link doesn't work anyway. Oh, here's the link. It's kept. Okay, so we can just keep everything here. I think that should work just fine. Let's try it. Okay, so we've done that and contributed it to the new version. Any other requests we want to consider? Someone wants to add some more blahaj. That sounds kind of nice. I love adding blahaj. I'm not sure if it's, let's see. Want to add more blahaj. Yeah, okay. Well, I guess they want to create a new blahaj web page. I guess that would be fine. So this is getting kind of unruly already because I'm really not spending much time on this, but see what other things we have here. Any other requests? Let's see, pull. Yeah. So now that we've done this all, so yeah, we got all kinds of fun things going on here. A nice link to that doesn't work. This is really disastrous at this point. All right, everyone. I mean, if anyone has any questions, additional questions about this, what we've covered, I'm happy to cover them. But at this point, that's all the things that I really wanted to cover for today. It seems like some people are asking where's the session challenge URL. And I think I posted that earlier because someone had given it to me. I'll see if I can find that again. But if anyone has a question, additional question, please feel free to send it along. Yeah, exactly. I think if this was the real Melon Squad website, I wouldn't want it there. Someone wants to elaborate more about GitHub Pages. So I'm happy to kind of elaborate a little more. So GitHub Pages is a free service where GitHub is hosting your website on their servers. And it's static hosting, which means that you can only make so many changes each time every once in a while. And I think there's other certain restrictions and the goal on size of the website. And I think the goal is so that they can host as many projects as possible and kind of host unlimited projects. But GitHub Pages is just one way of hosting your project online, like your website online. You can do it in other ways. And someone says, someone's asking about, could I upload some, movie? And I think GitHub would not appreciate that. And I think probably it wouldn't even allow you to. Like someone said earlier, there's certain limits to what kind of size you can upload. And I think for a free account, it's 500 megabytes. So you wouldn't be able to even really upload a movie and I wouldn't recommend it because it's almost definitely against their terms of use. That's probably true. There are probably some movies you could compress into less than 500 megabytes. Okay, everyone. Well, it seems like folks are sort of out of questions, but I'm happy to consider any additional pull requests to the Melon Squad website. I'm probably going to go and clean this up a little bit because it's kind of gotten out of hand. I did not really do a good job of being judicious about the reconciling these conflicts and stuff. But, what are you going to do? So I appreciate everyone for joining, and it was really nice to meet all of you. That's all for now. Good luck with your local Hack Day challenges, and may the best team, win. Bye-bye.